As the holiday season of 2018 was gaining momentum, Cheryl Bart found herself increasingly consumed by worry. Thanksgiving had come and gone, yet she hadn't heard a word from her daughter, 29-year-old Kelsey. This silence was deeply unsettling, as Kelsey was usually diligent about keeping in touch. Despite juggling work and motherhood with her daughter Kay, Cheryl's unease grew, prompting her to contact the police and request a welfare check. Officers arrived at Kelsey's home in Woodland Park, Colorado, discovering her car parked outside. The house whispered of Kelsey's hasty departure. Unwashed dishes cluttered the kitchen, a half-eaten meal sat abandoned, and her personal belongings, like clothes and purses, remained untouched. Her phone and wallet were missing, adding to the unsettling scene. Though no signs of a struggle were evident, a missing persons report was filed, and the search for Kelsey began. Cheryl last spoke with her daughter on the morning of November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day. Kelsey had been in high spirits, baking cinnamon rolls and planning a trip to the grocery store for the holiday feast. Later that day, Kelsey went to Safeway with Kay. She texted her fiancé, Patrick Frazee, to say she'd bought sweet potatoes and was making a casserole if he wanted to join them for dinner. That was the last anyone saw of her. Patrick, Kelsey's fiancé, lived on his mother Sheila's ranch. When questioned, he claimed that Kelsey had broken off their engagement the day before Thanksgiving. He said they had grown apart but agreed to share custody of their daughter Kay. Patrick stated that they met in an alley where Kelsey handed him their daughter and he returned some of Kay's belongings. He then took the girl back to the ranch for Thanksgiving, but Kelsey never arrived. Patrick claimed they were still in contact, albeit infrequently. He showed investigators text messages like one where he asked, "Are you awake?" And Kelsey replied, "Sorry, didn't hear my phone. Going to shower, we'll call you later." He also sent her a message saying, "If this is really what you want, I respect your decision and will give you space." The investigators grew skeptical. Kelsey's recent behavior didn't suggest she wanted to end the relationship. Just a week prior, she was discussing wedding dresses with her mother and planning a family dinner. Kelsey and Patrick met in 2016 through a dating website. He lived on a 35-acre ranch, training herding dogs and caring for horses and donkeys. Kelsey loved the outdoors and their shared interests drew them together. In October of 2017, they had a daughter, Kaylee. However, despite the child and an engagement, they lived separately. Kelsey resided in Woodland Park, while Patrick lived with his mother on the ranch. Kelsey didn't want to move in until it was just her, Patrick, and their daughter. Their relationship worsened over time. Kelsey complained to friends about the difficulty of maintaining the relationship while juggling motherhood. Patrick rarely visited, and Kelsey felt his interest waning. She also suspected he was talking to his ex-girlfriend, but wasn't sure. These thoughts weighed on her. As news of Kelsey's disappearance spread, her friends and family organized a vigil in Washington to raise awareness. Investigators continued gathering information, questioning why Kelsey would suddenly end the relationship when she'd been discussing wedding plans with her mother. Patrick claimed Kelsey was emotionally unstable and possibly depressed, even hinting at suicide to explain her disappearance. Kelsey's friends confirmed she was consumed by caring for her daughter and her job, but they saw no signs of depression or suicidal thoughts. She was a flight instructor who loved her job, which allowed her to travel and enjoy nature. Kelsey was a simple country girl who loved tractors and farming, her values tied to nature and freedom. However, her dreams of a happy family were fading. She noticed Patrick's lack of initiative, and despite her efforts, their future plans were at a standstill. She didn't want to live with his mother, and he wouldn't change his living arrangements. This became a key factor in their growing divide. Law enforcement searched Kelsey's home and both of her cars, finding no signs of a struggle or forced entry. The disappearance was classified as a missing person case, and the police asked for the public's help. No one believed Kelsey would voluntarily leave her daughter for so long. The idea of substance abuse was dismissed, as no friends or family knew of any such issues or depression. Suspicions arose when it was revealed that days before her disappearance, Kelsey told her boss that Patrick would attend a corporate event, expressing her excitement with exclamation marks and emojis. However, Patrick was absent from all events after her disappearance. He didn't attend press conferences or candlelight vigils, nor did he call to inquire about the investigation. Cheryl, Kelsey's mother, and Clint, her brother, launched their own investigation. They returned to Kelsey's house to search for anything that might explain her disappearance. Inside, they found the heat cranked up. Cinnamon rolls from Thanksgiving morning sat on the table, and dishes were unwashed. But the refrigerator appeared recently wiped down, with visible streaks. They also noticed that the entry rug was missing, and Clint saw what looked like bloodstains on the toilet. Cheryl immediately called the investigators, who returned with luminol and cadaver dogs. After processing the scene, they found traces of blood, which DNA analysis confirmed to be Kelsey's. The lead investigator noted that Kelsey's behavior before her disappearance didn't align with the idea that she left voluntarily. She was a proud and caring mother who had never disappeared before. The FBI joined the investigation, and reports of the disappearance and a $225,000 reward for information appeared in the press. But suspicion increasingly focused on Patrick. Surveillance footage from neighbors showed Patrick at Kelsey's house twice on the day of her disappearance. The first time, he arrived with Kelsey and Kaylee. However, hours later, cameras captured him alone. The quality was too poor to determine if he was arriving or leaving, but his presence contradicted his initial statements to investigators. The situation grew increasingly complex. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, Patrick became the prime suspect. From the start, he claimed he met Kelsey on the roadside, where she handed over their child. Now the video footage proved he was lying. The police grew increasingly skeptical of his innocence, especially when it became clear that Patrick was avoiding public contact and showed no interest in his fiance's fate. The investigation progressed, and each new fact only confirmed that Kelsey could not have disappeared willingly. On the fourth day after the missing person report, investigators announced they were close to a breakthrough. New evidence suggested Kelsey might be dead. Patrick remained the focus as the only person potentially involved in her disappearance, but direct evidence was lacking. Every detail suggested Kelsey's vanishing was meticulously planned. Despite claiming a broken relationship, Patrick remained close to Kelsey in her final days. Contact with her colleagues and supervisors revealed no personal life issues or intentions to disappear. Kelsey's life seemed to have ended suddenly without apparent cause. Cheryl and Clint refused to give up, continuing to seek the truth, convinced Kelsey would never abandon her daughter. The house she lived in screamed that something was wrong. Heating at full blast, a freshly cleaned refrigerator, a missing bathroom rug all hinted at attempts to cover tracks. Blood traces found inside only confirmed their worst fears. It became clear that Kelsey's story was more than a simple missing person case, but a dark and frightening mystery. Patrick, the man claiming to love her, became the prime suspect, with police increasingly focusing on his actions. His strange behavior and false statements led investigators to believe he was hiding something connected to Kelsey's disappearance. The case turned into a real ordeal for both the police and her family. Despite their best efforts, investigators couldn't answer the main question: what happened to Kelsey the day she stopped communicating? When Woodland Park police returned to Patrick's property for another routine check, they noticed groundwork taking place. Drones captured these changes, but Kelsey's body remained unfound. Investigators continued interacting with Patrick, not actively arresting him, leaving the ongoing investigations a mystery to the press and public. Simultaneously, the evidence collection team focused on Kelsey's house, conducting searches and removing several brown bags, their contents undisclosed. Investigators were clearly analyzing and verifying collected evidence. Soon, a friend, Krystal, approached the police with information. Krystal shared details, saying that Patrick once told her that he needed to deal with his child's mother. Both women interpreted it as an offer to get rid of Kelsey. Phone data became a critical element. Kelsey's phone data showed her device near Patrick's for days after her disappearance. The last signals from Kelsey's phone were in Idaho, where messages were sent to Patrick, her boss, and her mother, Cheryl. It became clear that Krystal sent these messages as they used the same cell towers near her residence. Police searched large areas of land connected to Patrick under warrants obtained on the 14th of December. A warrant was also issued to check his phone. The investigation took a sharp turn when a phone number surfaced, leading detectives to Krystal Kenney, a nurse residing in Wida. Initially, Krystal denied any significant connection to Patrick, claiming their acquaintance was limited to a horse purchase. However, it soon came to light that she and Patrick had been entangled in a long-term, on-again, off-again relationship for over 10 years. Krystal's ex-husband corroborated this, revealing that the bond between Krystal and Patrick had strengthened after their divorce. Meanwhile, investigators began dissecting the possible motives behind Patrick's involvement in Kelsey's disappearance. According to Krystal, Patrick often portrayed Kelsey as an unfit mother and an addict, stating that he wanted to rescue his daughter and obtain full custody. Adding to the complexity, Patrick was facing severe financial strain. He was $72,000 behind on his mortgage and hadn't paid child support to Kelsey since July. Furthermore, Patrick was the beneficiary of a recently established life insurance policy on Kelsey, casting a darker shadow on his potential involvement. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Krystal finally cracked and confessed the truth. She admitted to a years-long affair with Patrick and revealed that he had solicited her to kill Kelsey. His initial plan involved poisoning Kelsey by slipping poison into her coffee, disguised as a stranger. When that failed, Patrick attempted to convince Krystal to run Kelsey over with a car. Cornered, Krystal agreed to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for pleading guilty to a lesser charge, tampering with evidence, which carried a maximum sentence of 3 years. The deal was struck, and Krystal led the police to Kelsey's house, where a trove of evidence was uncovered, including bloodstains on the floor, walls, and appliances, confirming a violent struggle had occurred. Despite the discoveries, Kelsey's body remained missing. The nature of the relationship between Patrick and Krystal and its connection to Kelsey's vanishing act lingered heavily in the air. Investigators continued piecing together the puzzle, striving to understand if Patrick's personal motives and financial struggles had truly culminated in tragedy. The investigation surrounding Patrick Frazee was reaching a critical point. Excavations near his property and evidence collection at Kelsey Berreth's home suggested a breakthrough, yet definitive answers remained elusive. While Patrick wasn't formally detained, law enforcement maintained contact, meticulously seeking incriminating evidence. Krystal Kenney's willingness to testify against Patrick was considered a pivotal development. Detectives worked tirelessly, piecing together the events leading to Kelsey's disappearance and the roles of Patrick and Krystal. On December 21st, Patrick Frazee was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, solicitation to commit murder, and 6 other offenses. He pleaded not guilty. The case drew the attention of the FBI, with agents actively involved in Colorado and other states. Investigators thoroughly searched Kelsey's residence and closely monitored Patrick. The Friday following his arrest, Patrick appeared in court via video conference. The courtroom was notably empty of Kelsey's family. Back in November of 2018, the 22nd of the month was a day of constant communication between Patrick and Kelsey, with calls and messages exchanged from 1 a.m. At 9:37 a.m., Kelsey messaged Patrick before a brief phone call. She mentioned Thanksgiving dinner preparations and a trip to the supermarket. Patrick later claimed they met briefly, with Kelsey dropping off their daughter Kaylee. However, their phones connected to the same cell towers between 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. At 1:24 p.m., Patrick was seen entering Kelsey's home with her. According to Krystal's testimony, Patrick blindfolded Kelsey, purportedly to guess a candle scent, then brutally attacked her with a baseball bat. Their young daughter was in another room during the assault. Patrick later claimed Kelsey's last words were, "Please stop." After the murder, Patrick took Kaylee to Walmart, fueled his car, and returned to Kelsey's house. Around 3:30 p.m., he called his mother Sheila and Krystal, asking the latter to clean up the mess. Krystal, realizing Kelsey was dead, packed cleaning supplies for a 13-hour drive from Idaho to Colorado. After the call, Patrick hid Kelsey's body in a plastic container and drove to Nash Ranch. His cell connected to same cells along the route. He returned home for Thanksgiving with his daughter and family. Krystal spent hours cleaning the house, allegedly leaving some blood traces intentionally. Later, Krystal and Patrick retrieved Kelsey's body from Nash Ranch. Back at Patrick's home, they burned her body in a large trough using 5 gallons of gasoline, along with Kelsey's Bible and some of Kaylee's toys. Patrick made 19 calls and sent messages, pretending to be Kelsey. Sheila, Patrick's mother, witnessed the burning from a distance and later became a key witness. Krystal also disposed of Kelsey's gun and phone, continuing to create a false narrative. Krystal parked the aluminum, bottomless container on the property and handed the phone to Patrick. Krystal's testimony and cell phone data allowed the police to reconstruct the events and strengthen their case against Patrick. Patrick Frazee's trial began in October of 2019. Testimony was heard from Krystal Kenney, who had already pleaded guilty to evidence tampering, and an inmate who had been jailed with Patrick. Jurors found Patrick Frazee guilty on all charges. He received a life sentence without parole for first-degree murder, plus 3 consecutive 48-year sentences for solicitation to commit murder, and 12 years for body desecration, totaling a life sentence plus 156 years. The judge condemned Patrick's brutal actions, burning Kelsey's body like trash. Krystal received a 3-year prison sentence and 1 year of parole, the maximum sought by Kelsey's family. The district attorney stated the deal with Krystal was necessary to convict Patrick. Krystal Kenney, a nurse, had admitted to helping Patrick Frazee with evidence tampering and testified against him. Some sources claimed a romantic relationship between Krystal and Patrick, while her family asserted she acted under duress. Despite her cooperation, Kelsey's body was never found. The lead investigator had the difficult task of informing Kelsey's parents of the cremation. Patrick's parents, Sheila, faced their own ordeal. Sheila was questioned but not arrested. An emergency custody hearing awarded Kaylee to Cheryl, Kelsey's mother. If Krystal's testimony was true and Sheila witnessed the burning, the custody decision was justified. According to many friends, Patrick's behavior was not surprising. His ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, described Patrick as manipulative and emotionally abusive, calling him a psychopath. She believed Krystal fell under Patrick's influence. Despite the trial's outcome, unanswered questions remained. The investigator prepared to break the news to Kelsey's parents, hoping to locate her remains. Following Krystal's sentencing, the prosecutor expressed dissatisfaction with her lenient punishment, intending to fight against leniency programs. He likened the deal with Krystal to a deal with the devil. Kelsey's remains were never found. In Woodland Park, that Thanksgiving left a dark mark. Residents united to restore Kelsey's home, aiming to sell it. A neighbor stated this was their way of proving Woodland Park is about good people, not Patrick Frazee. The Kelsey family knew that securing a conviction without Krystal's cooperation would have been incredibly difficult. Still, they, like many others, felt she deserved a harsher punishment. The only thing she didn't do was deliver the final blow, they said. The thought of Kelsey's daughter growing up without her mother was unbearable for everyone. Patrick's actions seemed senseless and brutal, his motives shrouded in mystery. Kelsey's uncle recalled that Kelsey gave the best hugs, something everyone would deeply miss. Krystal was resentenced to 17 months and paroled in 2021. Her 3-year sentence did not equate to a full term, as she immediately received half off for good behavior upon entering the correctional facility. Investigator May emphasized that the sentence delivered in the courtroom should reflect the actual time served. He admitted that the deal made was unavoidable and not a point of pride, but without it, justice for Kelsey would not have been achieved. The lead investigator added that Krystal committed terrible acts. While not as violent as Patrick's, her actions were severe. The investigator struggled to understand her choices, especially since he had never experienced domestic violence. He respected the dynamics of such situations, yet she was an intelligent woman and a good mother. Her decision remained incomprehensible, likely beyond anyone's understanding. Nevertheless, without her help, they wouldn't have accomplished what they did. Another detective, despite all he learned, remained torn between empathy and disgust for her actions. He noted that without experiencing domestic violence, it was difficult to understand why someone would resort to such measures instead of contacting the police. It remained a mystery to him. One of the detectives added that while he doesn't keep photos of victims in his office, he remembers them all, especially in cases like this. Kelsey was someone he would remember for a long time. He couldn't comprehend why Patrick did what he did. How could anyone, whether Patrick or someone else, be so cruel to the mother of their child? The district attorney and another officer noted that, unfortunately, they had never met Kelsey in person, but wished they had under different circumstances. They knew it wasn't easy for a woman to work in aviation or the military, but Kelsey excelled. She was a respected and valued employee, and the feedback from colleagues and students demonstrated what a remarkable person she was. She was dedicated not only to her daughter, but also to her country. Everyone involved in the investigation, including personnel from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the prosecutor's office, and other agencies, genuinely cared about her. Patrick Frazier, convicted of murder, attempted to appeal his sentence, but his request was denied in 2023. The lead investigator acknowledged that Krystal made significant errors, but the justice they achieved would have been impossible without her help. The events that unfolded that Thanksgiving left their mark, and the town tried to move forward, gradually rebuilding not only Kelsey's home, but also its reputation.